Resources generally have played an important role in Africa's growth. 19 African countries are significant producers of oil and gas, and revenues from higher prices and the investments that new discoveries are attracting have made a key contribution to growth. Let's take a look at what we're looking at going forward for Africa's oil and gas industry. Andy Brogan, Global Oil and Gas Transactions Leader at Ernst & Young, joining us from London. Andy, thanks for your time. So are investors excited about what's going on right now? I mean, when you look at how the landscape is shaping up, it seems that, Japanese firm, also one of the firms investing in upstream assets in Mozambique gas, that announced today. But it seems every single day we've got a new investor and a new announcement around an investor in Africa. Is this an exciting space right now?
It's probably the most exciting geography for oil and gas investments at the moment. It's got a combination of two things which are quite rare, which is world-scale geological projects, but also the ability to actually get in and invest. Almost every other country with projects of this size has a dominant national oil company that tends to control access very closely. So you've got a huge amount of interest all over the continent from all sorts of investors. At the top end, you've got the majors and the very, very big national oil companies involved, but you can run right the way through to the exploration minnows that are busy prospecting away in some of the onshore provinces.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the competitive nature of it, as you say, it's one of the most exciting places for investors. What about the tax terms right now? How does Africa fare in general relative to other spaces?
It's competitive. I think the governments of the countries that have the more mature provinces have actually got a long track record of pitching their tax regime at the right level to attract capital. If you've been in the oil and gas industry for any length of time, you know that fiscal regimes do flex a bit over time as basins and countries get more mature, but also as prices go up and down. But generally within Africa, the place operates on the basis of what are called production sharing contracts, which is pretty much the gold standard for inward investors as far as tax and fiscal stability is concerned. We've seen the West African countries probably getting a little bit more competitive over the last couple of years to attract investment as they needed to. We've seen the Eastern African countries tighten up a bit over the last couple of years, again as their sectors get more mature. But generally, if you look around the world as an investment destination, then the African countries actually stack up very well.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Angola, because there's talk that Angola is ramping up production to an extent where it will take over the lead from Nigeria as the biggest oil producer in Africa. It's currently producing 1.8 million barrels per day. Talk to us about some of the developments in Angola right now, and do you think that it will overtake Nigeria ultimately?
Well, as a fairly cautious person, at the moment it's honestly too early to say. What you've got in Angola is a very successful conventional oil province with conventional deep water offshore, which has successfully put on a lot of production over the last couple of years and is successfully replacing any declines in existing fields, which is good. And for a long time it's been one of the go-to destinations, particularly for the majors in Africa, because of the type of projects that are there. But what's really exciting people at the moment is if you wind the clock back several hundred million years, Africa and South America are actually part of the same continent. And if you look at the pre-salt trend in Brazil, which has generated those gigantic finds over the last 3 or 4 years, then I'll probably get the years wrong, but a long time ago, that basin was only about 100 kilometres away from a similar basin offshore Angola. Mm-hmm. So what people are now doing is they're looking at the pre-salt in Angola and seeing is the basin the same, and is there the same prospectivity. And you've had the Angolan government successfully license out to a series of the biggest oil companies in the beginning of 2011 blocks to start the exploration, to have a look and see whether that's really there. What you'll have over the next couple of years is a series of about 20 very high impact or potential impact exploration wells being drilled. They'll be spending well over $2 billion drilling those wells, and as a result of that we'll then know whether Angola is a new Brazil. If it is a new Brazil, then Angola's production will rise very significantly and could easily overtake Nigeria.
But as you say, a little bit cautious there, too early to call in that one. Now, what is interesting about Africa is there's so much interest and investment in exploring on the upstream front. Is downstream developing at the pace that is needed to support this burgeoning industry?
I think the honest answer is no, it isn't. Downstream has always struggled in competing with upstream for capital because generally the returns are lower. I think combined with that, up until fairly recently, there'd been a good deal of unpredictability about the demand profile that the companies were selling into. So you've had a lot of the legacy majors withdrawing from Africa, selling out, and being replaced by trading firms or local players. And you've not had the same appetite for large-scale investment in downstream to date that you've had in upstream. I think that is now beginning to change. There is, I think, a widespread recognition that downstream demand in Africa is going to grow significantly. And now what we're looking at is a series of lots and lots of different bottlenecks running right the way back from the petrol station through to refineries. And recently you've had a couple of announcements. So you had the announcement that the Chinese were going to finance the development of a big new refinery in South Africa. We should have the sort of Angolan refinery moving ahead fairly shortly. And what's really going much quicker across the whole continent is storage. Because there isn't much refining in Africa, then lots of people are looking at where can we build storage to import into. But generally I think the investment profile for downstream's got a long way to run, and I think there you'll have some role to be played by some of the outfits like the IFC or the World Bank, just in making sure that competitive debt is available to make those things happen.